The Royal Commission into Anti-Semitism and Social Cohesion is set to conclude public hearings next week, and one Liberal MP has called for it to be extended and for the Prime Minister to take the stand. Julian Leeser is the Shadow Minister for Education and Indigenous Australians. Welcome to the program.
Good to be with you, PK.
Why does the Royal Commission need to be longer?
The Royal Commission needs to be extended because it's got more work to do. The Royal Commission had three tasks. The first is to hear evidence of anti-Semitism from Jewish Australians and from others that we've experienced over the last couple of years, and on that I think it's done a pretty good job. Its second role is to make recommendations about policy and law reform, and we'll have to wait to the report to see that. But the third is to hold people in positions of leadership to account for their failures in leadership and the role that some have played in terms of fomenting anti-Semitism. And I've called for the Commission to be extended to look at the arts and cultural, university sectors, cabinet ministers, protest organisers and the Human Rights Commission, and to hear from other prominent Australians as well. I think it's very important that the Commission hold people to account, because if it doesn't, then the message that will be sent is that you can engage in anti-Semitism, you can fail to lead and act, and there are no consequences. And I think that's a terrible message to send to the community.
You say you want it to hold leadership to account, but isn't that what it's been doing? It's already spoken to Vice-Chancellors. You mentioned the university sector. It's traversed these issues. There have been hearings. I've watched them myself. So what you're really saying is that you just want the Prime Minister to be in the hot seat.
No, not at all, Patricia. In the Child Sexual Abuse Royal Commission, in that Royal Commission they dragged priests and bishops and religious leaders out of retirement villages to hold them to account for their actions. In this Royal Commission so far on the universities, we've seen at some of the key universities like the ANU and at Melbourne University, Vice-Chancellors who had only recently stepped down from their roles not put on the stand, and their replacement acting interim Vice-Chancellors just not able to answer questions because they weren't there at the time. I think it's important that the Commission hears from the key people who are there in leadership and decision-making roles in the university sector, in the arts sector as well. They haven't heard from the Chief Executive or the Chair of Creative Australia or some of the artists who are involved in the doxing. In terms of the protest organisers, I think it's very important they put some of the protest organisers on the stand to hold them to account for some of their actions which have contributed to the declining social cohesion and anti-Semitism that we've seen in our country in recent years.
So given the Royal Commissioner makes those judgments about the Royal Commission itself, its office, makes those judgments, they're not political decisions and nor should they be. What are you actually calling for? Are you asking for a change in the terms of reference? What is the mechanism for delivering what you're asking for?
Well, the government writes the terms of reference and the government controls the timetables. So the purpose of my motion in the House of Representatives yesterday, which the government voted against, was to call on the government to give the Royal Commission more time in order to hold people in positions of leadership to account, and that included ministers in that government.
So you think the extra time itself will inevitably lead to these particular figures being asked to come?
I think it must, and I think there is a wide range of views across the Jewish community in support of the position that I've taken. I've had lots of people reach out to me and contact me and express concerns that the Royal Commission is about to wind up. It's only been given 11 months, and its role was not just to look at the Bondi attack, but to look at the issue of anti-Semitism more broadly in Australia. And we have seen this massive outbreak in anti-Semitism, and it's really important for the future of all Australians that we address it and that we get to the bottom of it and that it holds leaders to account.
Are you disappointed that in these public evidence that's been provided that you just haven't seen a smoking gun moment? Is there a frustration that that kind of moment hasn't happened?
Well, I listed a range of people that I think need to be put on the stand and question about their leadership of institutions at particular times over the last couple of years where that leadership has been wanting, and that hasn't happened. And I can only assume that that hasn't happened because the Commission has been very constrained in the amount of time it's had, and I think it's important that we give it more time. Most Royal Commissions go for more than a year. This has gone for 11 months. And I've been consistent, Patricia, in saying this. I said it from the very commencement of the Royal Commission, that this was a very short period of time, that there's nothing special about it reporting on the 14th of December. Indeed, the 14th of December should be a day where we comfort the mourners and remember the victims. It is not a day where we want to be crawling over the recommendations of the Royal Commission. It's important the Royal Commission gets this right. The future of Australia for all Australians means that we want to get to the bottom of anti-Semitism, we want to turn things around, and we want to show to people in leadership that there are consequences when you fail to exercise your powers to stop bad conduct that leads to anti-Semitism.
You want the Prime Minister to take the stand. If the Prime Minister was to take the stand, are you saying that he's responsible for anti-Semitism in this country?
No, I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying he was the Prime Minister who presided over the last couple of years, and on many instances his leadership has been wanting, and I've detailed them regularly on your program, whether it was the long time he took to appoint the anti-Semitism envoy, the fact that he sat on her report for long periods of time, the fact that they had to be dragged kicking and screaming to implement harsher penalties and tougher laws, the fact that it took them 2 years to list the IRGC as a terrorist organisation, the fact that there was constantly from the Prime Minister a moral equivalence between Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and a failure to call it out simply. I mean, I think most people would regard those as things about which he could answer questions on. It's not unusual to see politicians called before Royal Commissions. It's happened in the Robodebt inquiry, it happened in the Pink Bats inquiry. You know, the Prime Minister and his senior ministers presided over this period. They had the agencies at their disposal whose role it was to bolster social cohesion and to protect all Australians, and clearly that didn't happen. And I think that they should be held to account and ask questions.
If I can move you to another part of your portfolio, the Indigenous Affairs part, one of your colleagues, Jacinta Nabarjipra-Price, has said to the Australian newspaper concerns around the way town camps are organised. Do you want to see town camps, I'm wanting your view here, do you want to see town camps closed or changed?
I think there does need to be reform in the town camps area. I think Jacinta rightly put those in context of, they have a particular context of a particular place and time that doesn't apply anymore, and the question is whether those town camps are actually serving the Indigenous people that live there well or not. If the town camps were to be closed, there'd obviously need to be transitional arrangements, and those sort of things would need to be worked out. But I think she's right to have that discussion, and it's part of the reason that I wrote to the Auditor General and asked for an audit of federal spending in town camps and remote communities, because I'm concerned, after the tragic death of Kumanjai Little Baby, that we can have 7 agencies across 38 programs spending $82 million, and a woman can't leave her child in a safe place in those town camps. And there's been multiple complaints and issues with those town camps over the years, and maybe we need to start again. Well,
those town camps, though, people have lived there for generations. They are actually embedded in culture. I've been to them, so have you. They are, you don't just shut them down, and that would be diabolical for the people, wouldn't it?
Well, Patricia, no one is suggesting they be shut down instantly, but there's a question about, well, what should the future of the town camps be? Do we need a transition for people into the broader community of, say, Alice Springs and the other areas where the town camps live? How would that work? You know, I'm not here to make this policy on the run. I'm responding to a question from you about a comment made by a colleague. But I do think Jacinta Price raises some salient issues there about the future of the town camps, given their history and also given some of the problems that have been there.
Just on another issue that's been huge today, and that's tobacco and the tobacco issues. Do you agree with One Nation that the excise should be cut by 75%?
Well, there's currently a Senate inquiry into illegal tobacco in Australia, and we do have a massive problem. I have tobacco shops in my electorate that have been shut down. I mean, I want to see more of them shut down. So I think it's both a law enforcement and a taxation issue, but I want to await the findings of the Senate committee before I offer a particular view.
OK. Just final question about gambling. Some of your colleagues crossed the floor, including in the Senate today. There's obviously been a strong reaction to the gambling laws. I know a deal has been done, and you're in shadow cabinet, but Would you like to see more ambition in this area over the next few years? There's a review in 3 years.
I think Sarah Henderson and Angus Taylor worked very hard to improve these laws, to protect children who are watching sport, to protect vulnerable Australians who are addicted to gambling and who want to take more control of their lives. And I want to commend Sarah Henderson and Angus Taylor for the deal that they've done. I think they worked very hard with the government to find a compromise here. It's not going to please everyone, but I think this is a very important step forward.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And that was the Shadow Education Minister, Julian Leeser, on his call for the Royal Commission into Anti-Semitism, Social Cohesion to be extended.